In this class, we'll be looking at how to open up the front and the backs of the wrists, which is really good for activating the flow of energy throughout the upper body meridians. There's several ways that we can approach this, of which I'll go through a few now. So the back of the wrists can be accessed first of all by simply taking the backs of your hands to the mat from a kneeling position, and then experimenting with how far forward you'd like the wrists to come whilst your weight maintains back towards your heels. Now, depending on the anatomy in your wrist, it may feel better for you having your fingers slightly turned in, slightly turned out, or your fingers pointing back towards your knees. Okay, and then after a couple of minutes here, we would allow our hands to come back onto our knees with our palms facing up for receptivity while we rebound. Or if you need to feel a little bit more grounded today, then bringing your palms down to your thighs is fine too. So likewise, we can work from a tabletop position for the front of our wrists. So taking our wrists into extension. So this is flexion and this is extension. And again, maybe your fingers are turned slightly out. Maybe they're back towards you. And play about with the distance of your knees in relationship to your body. And maybe rolling your toes under would just help you feel a little bit more stable here. Try not to completely lock the elbows out. Keep a softness in the shoulders, in the neck. And again, we can be here for a minute or two. Maybe we change the hand position after 4 or 5 breaths. And again, we would release back into our Seagull position with our hands on our lap, palms facing down or up. Now, another way that we can approach these stretches is through a pose called Seagull pose, which I absolutely love that name, being a sea lover myself. And we kind of bring ourselves to look a little bit like a seagull. So by creating some wings for ourselves. So you could come from a seated position, a cross-legged position, maybe seated up on a block. You could be sat on a bolster right now, a bolster between your legs, or you could be sat back on your heels, such as I am. So whatever feels comfortable for you. But I find that Seagull position just offers me that nice bit of elongation through the spine in this pose that I'm looking for, so that I've got as much space as possible for my breath to move in my torso whilst doing this pose. So for Seagull pose, you bring the backs of your hands somewhere into your side body. Now, again, depending what's happening in not just your wrist joint, but also in the shoulder as well, it might feel better for you to have your fingers facing back. Or maybe for you, your fingers facing up towards your armpits. They may even be turned slightly out. So play about with what feels right for you. Relax the shoulders down your back. Take all of that tension out of the shoulder joints, out of the neck. We don't need it there. And let's just focus that attention onto opening up the backs of the wrists and this flow of energy that we're creating through this stimulation here in the tissues running across the wrist and the lower arms. And this is a really good place in which we can close down our eyes and observe the flow of breath in our rib cage. So you can really connect here with the flow of breath as it enters your body and expands into the belly and the side ribs and then the chest. And then again, as the breath leaves your body and the ribs draw together as the belly draws in. And as before, after however many minutes we choose to do in the pose, then release your hands down and be still for a good minute or so, observe, enjoy this flow of sensations that you've created there as you wake up all of these upper body meridian lines, the heart, the lungs, the small and large intestines, the triple burner, the heart protector. Okay, and when you're ready, I would begin to first of all wriggle your fingers. Obviously I'm moving quicker for the sake of this video. And then maybe begin to make some fan shapes with your fingers coming into fists. And then begin to roll your wrists. And you can even interlace your fingers and kind of make some rolling actions here through the wrists. It's always quite difficult to go the other way, but challenge yourself and see if you can go the other way as well. Okay, so for the other side here, the front of the wrists, taking the wrists into extension, we can take the same approach. We can bring our hands somewhere into our side body. Now, I actually don't have too much extension available to me in my wrists. I kind of reach there and the bone hits the bone in the front there, and as much as I want it to go further, it won't go any further. So it's not that I'm feeling tension on the opposite side there. I'm feeling on the front of the joint there, it just won't go any further. So for me, I can't very comfortably get my hands too far up. I prefer to kind of sit my hands somewhere down onto my side waist and turn my fingers slightly in towards the front of my body. And again, make sure that you relax the shoulders, take that stress out the shoulders, out the neck. It doesn't need to be there. Another way we can stretch into the front of the wrist is by what's known as angel wings. So for this, if you can bring your hands into reverse prayer, which for me is a little bit of a challenge. I'm kind of somewhere there. But this offers a very different sensation in the front of the shoulder here. So again, it will depend on your range of motion available to you in the shoulder socket there as well. Okay, so side waist or reverse prayer behind you, angel wings. And again, we can observe the flow of breath as it enters and leaves our body as a sort of way to ground down into this sometimes challenging and quite intense pose. And then again, you would slowly release, let the rebound happen. And then when you're ready, as before, begin to slowly move the fingers, fan the fingers, create some fists, roll the wrists. And then move on to your next asana. Okay, so that's your wrist stretches to stimulate the upper body meridians. Thank you for watching. Namaste.